Yo, and we are live. Man, look, bro, this is Set Key Media. We are back with another one, man. We about to get right into this. Cause this man said some crazy stuff, and I'm wondering, could Russia get away with it?
Let's go.
Let's get right into it.
First of all, it was the Israelis who started this. Israel made a major mistake that increases the likelihood that Iran will get nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons are basically a force for peace.
NATO couldn't let.
Hey, that's a wild statement. Nuclear weapons are a force for peace.
Yeah, act right or get blast right.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like, if you ain't falling in line, no, shit.
We blow your shit off the face of the map.
Oh, God. Next day.
A European sovereign democratic country come under nuclear attack and not respond.
And there is a concept of mutually assured destruction, so he's on to something with that.
Yeah.
And no American
we all got
president,
nukes, and we all know who we working with.
Willing to sacrifice.
We all know what we don't want to happen.
Chicago or Los Angeles for Ukraine.
Sorry, but Professor,
I think you don't fully understand.
Let me clarify.
Just what we're talking about here. We're talking about nuclear weapons.
Hang on.
Yeah, we're talking about that.
Big ones.
40 plus, like, what, 40K dead type shit. Like, that's what we talking about.
Talking about nuclear war.
Is it ever justified morally to deploy nuclear weapons?
If you use nuclear weapons to effectively murder huge numbers of civilians, you're committing a war crime.
Well, Iran's attack on Israel brought a decades-long proxy war to the brink of a red-hot conflict. But most experts in the West agreed with President Biden's verdict that it was an emphatic Israeli win. Iran looked weak, Israel looked strong again. Western allies and key Arab states were
You know what's so crazy? Like, when the U.S. used that nuclear weapon, bro, if we didn't win that war, bro, we'd have got brought up on war crimes. It'd have been even worse for Truman, because here's the thing is, though, as soon as, like, everything settled down with Japan, they brought him to international court to stand trial for what he did in Japan, saying that, yo, that was a war crime.
Yeah, of course.
Like,
if you answer for shit like that.
Oh, God, if you were going to do that, you should get him a warning.
To Israel's defense, underscoring ties that have been sorely tested by Israel's assault on Gaza. My next guest often swims against the tide of expert consensus. He's previously argued that a nuclear Iran would make the world a safer place, and that Israel is the Middle East's foremost agitator. Returning to Uncensored, I'd like to welcome back Professor John Mearsheimer. Well, John, great to have you back on. First of all, your reaction to what happened when Iran attacked Israel.
Well, I was actually quite amazed that the Iranians attacked Israel. I mean, this was the first case of Iran launching missiles from its own territory and hitting Israel. And they launched.
Yeah, this is the first time I ever heard Iran getting involved like that with Israel, too. Like, we all know how Iran feels about Israel. But we all thought that, well, you know, the American overshadow was kind of what kept them away.
And let's be honest, they threatened some shit, but we didn't really take them that serious, I guess.
They definitely did. With Hezbollah and them, they was threatening some shit. We just like, bro, please.
They stood on business.
And goddamn, man, that's our fault. I ain't gonna lie, that's our fault.
Not that we support their actions, but you know, they showed the world they wasn't playing.
Yeah, they caught us with our pants down on that one.
Really, nigga? A massive attack, and even though the vast majority of those missiles and drones did not get through, the fact is that they did launch this attack, and some got through. And then the Israeli retaliation was actually
what they say, like over 100 drones, and like maybe like 2 or 3 got through, but they shot down like almost all the missiles. And then the missiles that did made it through didn't do no significant damage. So, you know,
very small.
Damn near a waste of resources.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's quite amazing to me how minor the retaliation was. And if you look at what the consequences of this are,
Iron Dome, baby.
I think it is not good for Israeli deterrence moving forward. The Israelis care greatly about deterrence, and for deterrence to matter or to work for them, what's necessary is for Israel to have escalation dominance. If Iran and Israel get into a fight, it's essential for Israel that it dominate as the two sides go up the escalation ladder. That's what produces deterrence. But if you...
So you're pretty much saying, like, well, Israel needs to be a dominating force over Iran to deter them from, you know, going there with us. It's like this. It's like why most countries will not take there with America. It's like a lot of countries don't like who we fund or what we do around the world, but they're not going to take it there with us because they know, like, bro, if you take it there with us, you might
got something for you.
Yeah, we got something. You might lose your whole country at the end of the day just taking it there with us. and we ain't do nothing to you yet.
Lose your whole race of people. Wipe y'all niggas off the map.
Boy.
If you look at what happened in this case, there was no escalation dominance. The Iranian attack was much larger than the Israeli attack.
Well, it was, but I would counter by saying that the Iran attack was a spectacular failure in the sense that it caused almost no damage. Almost all the missiles were taken out by the Iron Dome.
And here's a crazy fact, G. As of April 18th, 2024, Iran's military ranks 14th in the world, with Israel in 17th place. So they're like, literally, Israel's fighting 3 leagues above them. And Iran has the largest military in the Middle East by active troops, with around 610,000 active duty personnel and 350,000 reserve and trained personnel. God damn, like, yeah, they ready. So yeah, they got over 600K for you just ready to go. And then they got some reserve, over 350K in the back for that ass. Like, yeah, they ready. They ready.
And actually, I would say most significantly of the whole thing was the way that neighboring Arab countries like Jordan raced to help defend Israel. Even Saudi Arabia allowed some of its airspace to be used. We saw the UK, we saw the French and others come in as well. So there was an immediate and rapid collaborative defense of Israel against Iran's missile attack, which thwarted any real damage being done. And in their counter, Israel, you could argue, were very specifically targeted around some of the nuclear plants which Iran is believed to have, that they were making the point that they could target anywhere in Iran at will and land their missiles.
You say y'all taking all that shots and miss, but we take one shot, we gonna hit. Actually, every shot we take at y'all is gonna hit. Actually, the only reason why Iran actually send that little military strike was because Israel bombed their embassy. And that's a war crime, just to let y'all know you can't do that. But Israel did it with no repercussions. But it's Israel.
As opposed to
they get away with some shit.
They can do some things.
Defense. So I would take issue with your categorization that this was somehow a victory for Iran in here. I think that what Israel did was make a very clear statement. If you want to do this, we have the capacity to strike anywhere in Iran at will. And we also have the backing of a lot of neighboring countries.
No, damn. Yeah, they sure do. You ain't lying.
There was never any question that Israel had the capability to hit Iran with huge numbers of missiles and aircraft. That was never in doubt. But the fact is their retaliation involved attacking one radar. They didn't, in a sense, turn the dogs loose and really hit Iran with large numbers
good time,
of
King
missiles.
Appreciate y'all.
Isn't that smart? I mean, I urged, and like many people, including President Biden, I urged in a post to X that I really hope Israel shows some restraint here, but I fear that Netanyahu wouldn't. And to my pleasant surprise, on this occasion, he did show some restraint. Because I think that there's a lot of goading going on.
Because there's more of a repercussion to come at Iran, let's be real. There's really not that too much of a repercussion when it comes to attacking Palestinians, and I think they know that. That's why they went so fucking crazy on their ass. But now you dealing with a country that got more troops than you, and if y'all really go head to head, y'all gonna lose. Let's keep it a buck. Y'all ain't taking them up on a one-on-one. So of course y'all gonna kind of draw back a little bit on what y'all gonna do to them.
It's crazy.
It's like y'all not afraid, but y'all ain't gonna go full force like y'all did on the Palestinians.
Well, if I finish my point, I think there's a lot of goading going on right across the region against Israel. Well, let me finish my point, then I'll get your response. When you see the activity of Hezbollah, of the Houthis, of what Hamas did on October the 7th, and what Iran then did in response to the attack on their consulate, there's a lot of deliberate provocation, I think, of Israel to try and goad them into an overreaction, which may then ruin their global support and sympathy. I mean,
low key though, because like I said, bro, Israel gets in with Iran over an alleged war crime that they committed. Yeah, bro, that's going to make a lot of American people look at them and be like, look, G, I ain't going to lie. Y'all doing too much, bro. Y'all getting into countries that, like,
we don't even support this no more.
Yeah, they low-key outrank you in military power. So, and you trying to get in with these people? Look, bro, America, like, come on now. This is where we got to back out.
Well, Biden's already said if Iran chooses to attack any further, that we'll fully support Israel.
Yeah, well, yeah, with money, but not with troops though.
Not yet.
Yeah, like
no
with
troops
money,
yet.
I can get down with.
We just
I feel
signed that TikTok bill. It was a large amount of money sent over there, as well as Ukraine.
Yeah, but but they got like 26 bill going to them, which is supposed to go to Gaza. I don't know how that's gonna work, but here's
a portion of that is supposed to go to Gaza, and I still don't know how that's gonna work.
Oh God! But here's the thing, though: like Israel can't be making attacks on certain countries because they support Palestinians, and then get mad when this country want to strike back.
Oh, of course not. But that's what they intend to do, I'm assuming.
God damn, they try to do them just like Palestine.
I mean, Hamas at this point, I mean, they can't really muster a counterattack.
No, they cannot. But I'll tell you who can.
Yes, sir.
At least a possibility, isn't it?
Not that we wanted to happen.
Well, first of all, it was the Israelis who started this by bombing the Iranian embassy in Damascus. The Iranians did not start this conflict that recently took place between April 1st and April 19th.
But they were there with people from Hezbollah, weren't they? So they were military leaders using the consulate to plan attacks on Israel with leaders of Hezbollah. I mean, that was why they were targeted.
Yeah.
Look.
See, and that's crazy because he's trying to say, well, it was a valid attack, even though they attacked an embassy. There was members of Hezbollah in there, so it was okay. And I'm just like, no.
That's what they always say when attacking the terrorists. Oh, Hamas was there. Oh, Hezbollah was there.
But that's a war crime, regardless of the fact. Like, I get it. I get the strategicness of it. Hey, if I was a general, I'd have done the same thing. But I ain't gonna sit there and bullshit y'all and say, oh, I didn't commit no war crimes. I'm gonna sit there and say, damn right, I committed that war crime. I had to get bro up and out of there.
What's up, Capital?
And whatever, charges need to be brought against me, I should be ready to take. Instead of just gaslighting everybody like I ain't out here doing wrong.
Look, in international law,
and appreciate you, Capital,
according to
for pulling up.
international norms, states don't attack the embassies of other states.
Well, when you win in the war, you write the narrative. So to these niggas, they ain't doing shit wrong, but eliminating terrorism and any opposition against they military or they people.
Okay, and then shoot, as long as America got them back financially.
Oh, they good. They can't do no harm, man. Honestly, they got the battery in their back.
Honestly, Grace, I go to this point. There'd really be no threat on Israel if they didn't just go out. They're going outside the conflict now. They're going outside the Israel-Hamas conflict, and now they're bringing Iran into it somehow. And they're trying to rope Iran to it in a way they rope America into it, so we can start showing greater support. That's my speculation on the matter, though.
Yeah,
significant provocation.
Unless they're being used as military bases, which it is believed. Certainly, Israel argues. I don't know, but it's certainly been argued by Israel.
Appreciate the support.
That it was being used. Part of this consular area was being used as a genuine military base. In which case, it becomes a legitimate target if indeed they are meeting with Hezbollah to plan attacks on Israel, isn't it?
Well.
There's no evidence that it was being used as a military base. And the fact is that if the Israelis are going to hit the Iranian embassy, the end result is the Iranians are going to retaliate.
Exactly.
What's going on, Bruce Wayne?
Exactly. If you hit an Iranian embassy, which is a war crime, then they're going to attack. They have every right to pull up on y'all asses. And let's be real, considering that they have a bigger army, you lucky they ain't try to outnumber y'all. While y'all going through this conflict with Gaza would be the best time to hit y'all. But we all know America won't allow that. Thank God they don't allow it. I wouldn't want that to happen to Israel, to be honest.
That's probably why they haven't striked.
Yeah, but don't bring it upon yourself.
And they did retaliate. Now, I want to say a few words about that retaliation. It's very important to understand that the Americans and the Iranians orchestrated the Iranian attack so that it would be a limited attack. It would do very little damage to Israel. And the reason this is the case is that neither the Iranians or the United States wanted this conflict. And it was the Israelis who, by attacking the Iranian embassy in Damascus, dragged the Americans and the Iranians into this conflict.
See, I ain't gonna lie. We need to go back on that, because bro just said some vital shit right there. He just said something vital.
The Iranians or the United States wanted this conflict. And it was the Israelis who, by attacking the Iranian embassy in Damascus, dragged the Americans and the Iranians into this conflict. And what we tried to do, working with the Iranians, before the attack on April 14th and during the attack on April 14th was to do everything possible to keep it limited and avoid escalation.
Okay.
Oh God. And that's what I was trying to say. My wild speculation was kind of hitting somewhere. They're trying to get us more involved. And we're looking at Israel like, look, bro, y'all already in the Israel-Hamas conflict. Why are you trying to make this a whole new Middle Eastern conflict? You're literally trying to antagonize Iran.
We've already outstandingly spoke on our support for Israel. So at this point, anything that they do to agitate Iran and anything Iran does in retaliation, we're gonna be more involved at that point. They know it.
Yeah.
So it's like a tug of war game that's being played, and they know the more they pull Iran is the more they also pull us into the war and the conflict.
And we really shouldn't be doing that. I'm gonna be real with you. We shouldn't even.
We stretched thin enough as it is already. But
$60 billion already out to Ukraine. Then we got $26 billion to them. They don't need nothing else from us, okay? At least for the time being. And heard to me. Appreciate y'all, Bruce Wayne. Appreciate y'all. Hey, Texas in the house, man. Texas in the house. I love it, man.
Yes, sir.
The whole issue of nuclear weapons here, interesting that you believe that if Iran was allowed to arm itself with nuclear weapons, it would make the world a safer place. Just explain why you believe that.
Oh, so hold on. He's about to explain why if Iran had nuclear weapons, it'd be a safer place. You know, it's actually so hilarious, though. So we were able to keep our stringent, no nukes on, our stringent no nuke law on Iran. But when we try to do the same thing for Israel, we kind of let them slide.
Yeah, different strokes for different folks.
And, a certain president, Koloki, ended up unalived because of a certain investigation on that. But that's a whole different stream.
Well, first of all, I think from an American point of view, and certainly from an Israeli point of view, it would be all for the
you ain't
good
lying,
if
Bruce. You ain't
Iran
lying.
did
60
not
billion
get
is a
nuclear
lot.
weapons. I think from Iran's point of view, it makes sense to have a nuclear deterrent because nuclear weapons are the ultimate deterrent. So I want to discriminate or distinguish between what I think is the American and Israeli perspective on one hand and what the Iranian perspective is on the other hand.
Well, what is your perspective?
Now, with regard to the question of...
Bro, he's pretty much saying that if they had weapons, Israel wouldn't even try them. If they had nukes, as one of the top 20 militaries in the world, 13th to be exact, Israel would have never tried that ass. They'd have been like, hell no, we ain't trying Iran. We know what them niggas might do to us.
Oh, God. Ain't nobody trying to get their country blown off the face of the planet just over a small beef or a small conflict, especially that they didn't even start themselves.
Oh, God.
They entered in at some point, and now you about to nuke us? Oh, hell nah.
Yeah, I think there's some of this. Yeah, we did definitely start some of this, and we can go in all the way back to the 40s on how we started this, but that's doing a little too much. Actually, we could take all the way back to the Hitler days on how this is our fault.
My perspective as an American is I hope that Iran does not get nuclear weapons. And in fact, I think that Israel made a major mistake precipitating this recent conflict because it increases the likelihood that Iran will get nuclear weapons, which is not in Israel's interest. So I want to be very clear. I'm not in favor of Iran getting nuclear weapons.
So why would you just on that point, just to jump in, why would you then think the world's a safer place if you personally do not think they should be given nuclear weapons? Wouldn't it actually have the opposite effect, that if you have a regime like the one in Iran right now, the world is likely to be a far more dangerous place if they have the capacity for a nuclear attack?
Yeah, but this is the thing about when multiple countries have nukes. It's kind of like law-abiding citizens being able to have guns and protect themselves. The concept of mutually assured destruction is at play here because once everybody has an even playing field, you kind of know what you're getting into with the opposition. Yeah. If I got a nuke and you got a nuke and I can get my nuke to you, and this is the thing about a nuke, it doesn't land immediately. By the time yours is set off and I have any part and I have knowledge to it being set off, I can hit mines.
Yep.
So, hey, you might land yours 30 minutes before mine lands, but, hey, that motherfucker's still going to take out your shit.
Yep. So they got a whole city.
With this at play, more countries possessing nukes. I'm not saying I just want a free-for-all on the nukes, but he makes a good point in that it evens the playing field to the point where nobody really wants to play that game.
Yeah, so I'm not nobody's gonna test each other because it'd be like, all right, damn near all war would be ended off the mutual destruction clause.
It's like if I shot you in slow motion and you were able to react by the time that you seen me shoot, grab your gun and fire back, we probably wouldn't beef. We probably wouldn't be shooting at each other.
Yeah, it'd be a wrap. Nobody wins.
No, I know I got one coming back at me. Like,
are weapons of mass destruction, and that would make the Israelis and the Americans incredibly wary of attacking Iran, a nuclear-armed Iran, for fear that Iran would use its nuclear weapons either against us or against the Israelis. There's no question, if you go back and look at the Cold War, the fact that the United States and the Soviet Union both had nuclear weapons made the likelihood of conflict between the superpowers much less likely, because again, these are weapons of mass destruction. So if Iran had nuclear weapons, Israel had nuclear weapons, and the United States had nuclear weapons, all three countries would be remarkably cautious in terms of approaching each other with military forces. If you have a Middle East where nobody has nuclear weapons, you can think about fighting a conventional war. And conventional war is much less deadly, for obvious reasons, than nuclear war. So the argument here is that nuclear weapons are basically a force for peace. This is not to say you could never have a nuclear war if Iran had nuclear weapons. And that, of course, is why you don't want Iran to have nuclear weapons. But it is much less likely that you would have a war between Iran and Israel or Iran and the United States if Iran had nuclear weapons.
Do you think there's any likelihood of Russia deploying any of its nuclear armament?
Yeah, this is where it gets scary part. This is where it gets wild. Because he says something wild, and when he said it, I was like, it makes sense, though. It's scary reality, but it makes sense.
This is the scary part. Everybody tune in.
For example, if Ukraine, emboldened now by new weaponry, thanks to Congress finally passing this big bill for money for them, if that was to start pushing the Russians back, could you see a situation where Vladimir Putin might use one of his tactical nuclear weapons?
Oh, boy.
My view has long been, Piers, that if Ukraine were to start winning on the battlefield and the Russians were losing, that the end result would be that the Russians would use nuclear weapons.
Whip that motherfucking nuke out.
Man, and I'm going to tell you why, though. I'm going to be real with you. It makes sense. Because, look, Putin explained in this interview with Tucker that we need Ukraine. Ukraine is vital to our economy. Without Ukraine, our economy falls. So this is going to be of strategic value, ultimate value to Russia. If you don't think they're going to drop a nuke over that and just wipe the state clean over there, you're tripping.
Essentially, he's willing to see it all crash and burn over the sake of Ukraine.
Yeah. Man.
Rescue the situation. I think the Russians view what's happening with regard to the Ukrainian war as an existential threat. And given that the Russians think it's an existential threat, if they were in deep trouble, they were losing the war in Ukraine, I think they'd turn to nuclear weapons.
Yep.
I mean, doesn't that slightly fly in the face of what you've just argued, though, which is that if you have a nuclear power like Russia, and you have nuclear powers like America, and they've been helping Ukraine with their weaponry, and so on. UK nuclear power, French nuclear power. Why would they do that? If, as you say, if the ownership of nuclear weapons is the ultimate deterrent, why would Russia decide to risk a nuclear war with NATO, for example, if they did this? Because NATO would surely feel an absolute moral compulsion to respond in that eventuality.
NATO.
I think what you're missing here is that Ukraine has no nuclear weapons of its own.
No, I know.
So if
I know,
the Russians
I think but that's not my argument. I know that, and in fact, you could argue that your original argument about Iran applying to Ukraine, would Russia have invaded Ukraine if Ukraine had kept its nuclear weapons and had its own deterrent? I think that would back your argument. But here, I would argue that your argument slightly falls apart, because surely Russia would not want to do that, risking retaliation from America, UK, and other countries, or a full-fledged NATO response.
But then again, who said they're going to respond, though? Who said that they're going to respond? Like, why would they respond and risk a mutual destruction? They got nukes.
We got nukes.
We got nukes. The problem is that there's going to be a mutual destruction if we over there and say, bro, if they strike Ukraine, I don't think we're going to respond. I'll be so honest with you. Now, y'all over here thinking like, you told me we wouldn't help them out? I'm like, yeah, we wouldn't, bro. We just throw our hands up and be like, all right, we didn't think they was going to take it this far, but, hey, they took it there. and we ain't gonna go ahead and have a shootout with these dudes with nukes. We're
Well,
good.
Let's be honest, with the amount of money that was just approved to be sent over there, they should be able to fare for themselves for a while with weaponry,
bro.
keeping these niggas at bay,
But
advancing wherever they. Well, that's if Ukraine is able to turn the tide and gain momentum in the war. Because from any news outlet or news report that I've heard, Russia still is, maintaining the lead, able to secure its positions and
take cities and all
that. Advance as they pretty much please. So if Ukraine is able to turn the tide on that, and they're the ones advancing, they're the ones holding position, then that's what he's saying here. That's when Putin will feel the need to whip that bad boy out.
Oh God, and I feel it. Why? Because Ukraine is of important financial value. Like, bro, their economy hinges on Ukraine at a certain point. So yeah, Putin not giving that up, no matter what.
Because NATO couldn't
we
let
just gotta get
a
down
European
with that idea
sovereign democratic
like,
country
bro, ain't gonna let go.
Come under nuclear attack and not respond, surely.
Yes, it could. Because if we responded with nuclear weapons against Russia, Russia would then respond with nuclear weapons against the United States of America. And no American president, in my opinion, is willing to sacrifice New York or Chicago or Los Angeles for Ukraine.
So you can't honestly, but Professor, you cannot honestly think that Vladimir Putin could drop a nuclear weapon on the people of Ukraine and there would be no response from America or the West.
Bro, why would we though? It'd be too dangerous. We'd literally be putting our people in danger if we did that. I'm gonna be telling you, we'd put New York in danger. We'd put our own state here in Ohio in danger. Actually, wherever you got a military base at, you're in danger. And that's millions of people around these bases. And you're telling me we're all gonna put that on the line for Ukraine?
Facts.
Like, bro, you got me fucked up.
Personally, I don't think we done enough for these niggas. Like, it's time for them, like I said, to fend for themselves. Like, we done sent enough money for them to buy enough weaponry, for them to defend, for them to advance, for them to repair, rebuild, do everything they need to do. Goddamn it, we done sent them enough money for our kids to go to school. Man. So I ain't trying to hear Zelensky ask for no more money. I ain't trying to hear him call out no more taxpayers. Y'all good, bro. Y'all, hey, listen, bro, you ain't asked me, but I'm telling you, y'all good.
But if Putin do drop that bomb, I'm hands off. It's done. It's done. We give up. We didn't think he was going to do it, but he did it. Because I ain't gonna lie, that's all it takes. And we're not going to do shit about it. It'd be too much of a risk to do shit about it.
Oh, my God. I don't want peace.
I said there wouldn't be a nuclear response. There may be a response, but there won't be a nuclear response because you want to remember that if we hit Russia with American nuclear weapons or Western nuclear weapons, the end result is the Russians will retaliate against us.
And Russia got enough nukes for every city we got. They got enough.
Facts.
Actually, they got enough nukes for every city across Europe and America.
Facts.
So let's not play with these people.
We do not want to be hit with nuclear weapons. This is why we don't want Ukraine to have nuclear weapons. It's why we didn't want West Germany or South Korea or Japan to have nuclear weapons during the Cold War.
East Germany, you mean, do?
Appreciate you, Diamond.
No, West Germany. We didn't want West Germany to have nuclear weapons because our great fear was that if the Soviets overran West Germany, the West Germans would use nuclear weapons. They would hit the Soviet Union, and the Soviet Union would retaliate against the United States. We don't want to become involved in a nuclear war.
But then it seems if
so we're not going to fight.
Right, I understand that. But if a nuclear power like Russia can simply use its nuclear weapons with impunity and other nuclear...
Like I said, bro, I'm be so dead honest with you. If Russia really did get hit Ukraine with a nuke, bro, we look at Ukraine and just be like, are we good, bro? We good. We don't want no beef with y'all no more. Y'all got it. Y'all can have it.
Nuclear powers do not respond, then the nuclear deterrent collapses, doesn't it? Because they've just ignored it.
No, it doesn't.
We don't want that to
happen. It has no effect on our nuclear deterrent. Our nuclear deterrent remains intact. And the fact is the Soviet Union during the Cold War and Russia today will not attack the United States for fear that we would use our nuclear deterrent against the Soviet Union in the Cold War and Russia today. But the point is that if the Russians were to use nuclear weapons inside of Ukraine today, we would not respond with a nuclear attack on Russia because that would precipitate a general thermonuclear war.
Oh shit! Oh shit!
And the general thermonuclear war he's talking about is, of course, nukes, but the thermonuclear one is 20 times stronger than what they dropped on Hiroshima. So we got something that Hiroshima, think about it, that hit 40K people. So this is 10K stronger. I'm sorry, 10X stronger than it's taking out 400K people, like off rip, like that. And we all got them. We all got thermonuclear nukes. We all got this crazy power.
And I think we done covered the nuclear fallout on this channel before. Like, there's a blast radius. There's a timeline for how the nuke really affects the environment in the coming weeks, months, years after the nuke. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of things that happen outside of the giant-ass blast that will fuck niggas up.
And here's the one thing about nukes. There is nobody coming to help you. You got to help yourself.
Oh, no, it's raps.
Yeah, like...
It's done took out all the infrastructure. Hospitals, the schooling, everything, bro. Bruh. There's no help coming.
No ambulance, no nothing,
no first aid, no American Red Cross.
Bro, it's just you and the acid rain.
And the last thing we want is a general thermonuclear war. This is not to say we would be happy about the fact that Ukraine was hit with nuclear weapons, because we certainly
they're not big bombs.
would not
No,
be.
they are not.
And we certainly
you are right,
would respond
Kingsley.
in
A lot of
some
people
way.
have the wrong perception
But we
of
would
them.
not respond with a
That
nuclear
shit
strike.
takes out the
on Russia.
environment,
How
bro.
would we respond that would have any effect?
I'm not sure.
Blocks the
It's
ozone.
very hard to say. I mean,
that.
even if we used
winter.
simply conventional weapons, we got involved in the war with Russia, we would then have a great power war between Russia on one side and NATO on the other side, which included the United States. And once you have a great power war involving Russia versus the United States, the danger of nuclear escalation presents itself. And this, of course, is why President Biden...
Crazy thing is, it becomes whoever pulls the trigger first.
That's what I said.
And then here's the craziest thing, though. It's like the only way it would work out, and hopefully we never do this, but it would have to be the meanest blitz we've ever seen in history. I mean, like, we blitzed these dudes so crazy, we done dropped like 100 or at least 60 of them without them even having time to retaliate.
That would almost be impossible.
It would almost be impossible. Exactly. They have, they own their airspace.
I think that scenario is an unlikely one. I think a scenario we are more than likely faced with is, like I said, everybody just having a whole bunch of nukes. And, it's kind of like that meme where we're all just in a circle, just got these guns pointed at each other.
Yeah, like the Spider-Man meme.
Yeah, like, like who gonna do what? Like,
oh, yeah. No, I feel that. I feel the idea, but it's like, hey, if there is a way to do this, it'd be like one who strikes first and who can hit who with the most. And either way, we all lose that game. Or we all walk out with, I'd say, half of our population. Biden
has wisely said that under no circumstances will
imagine
American
150 million
military
people just
forces
gone.
be introduced into the Ukraine war, because he understands that once you do that, you're out on the slippery slope. You're out on the slippery slope to nuclear escalation. And the last thing we want, as I've emphasized to you, is a nuclear war between Russia and the United
No, I
States.
get that, but
wants
if
that.
Russia was to use one, that is right there, the nuclear escalation that you are so keen for everyone to avoid. It's a deliberate act of nuclear provocation.
so they would
And I
be,
just
oh, damn it, my bad.
Yeah.
They would be
Cannot
wildly
imagine
trying
that
our
in
hand
that
if they
reality, with
ended up
hundreds-
dropping that nuke, because they would be almost betting that we wouldn't retaliate just out of fear that it would escalate to like the end of world event.
Yeah.
Like if I ain't gonna lie, if Russia and the United States go at it with nuclear war, that's almost the end of the world. I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you.
That's it, bro.
I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you, because it's whoever's on our side gonna be attacking whoever's on their side as well. So it's an end of world event, cataclysmic.
Yeah, but what's the cost of a nuclear holocaust? Well,
What's up,
nuclear
Cody?
winter. So yeah, it's something that we really don't need to get into, though.
hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians being slaughtered with a nuclear weapon by Russia, I just cannot imagine that there would be no similar response from the West.
Yeah.
They would have to.
It's like, Piers, you crazy if you really think we're gonna get into a war with these people with nukes when nobody on our side died. Like, let's be real, nobody on our side died. Just the Ukrainians. I'm sorry, it's gonna be the saddest day in history, but we're gonna have to be like, look, man, we can't get into it, bro. That'd be the saddest day in history when Russia won.
That's the last thing they want to do too. They've strategically been advancing and attacking in Ukraine to avoid a certain number of casualties, to avoid certain areas, densely populated areas, to, you know, really save the people and more so capture the territory in the area. It's more about military dominance than just killing folks.
Oh
For
God.
real.
And you know, be the best strategy for them to employ would be Ukraine if they can get American soldiers on their land. So yeah, if they do nuke us and you kill American soldiers, I ain't gonna lie, we might get involved on that note alone.
Right.
We might. But nuclear though, I don't think we're gonna take it there with them. Actually, I think that'd be the day we sign a damn treaty with Russia. Like, oh, you dropped a bomb? Oh, we gonna hit
All right.
Japan.
Well, shit.
But we ready to sign whatever you got, G. It's a wrap. You
Not
got
facts.
it.
I agree.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that for 1 second.
Well, then what you're
We're not
really
gonna
doing, I don't want to put words in your
initiate a
mouth,
nuclear
but aren't you painting a picture then of Russia being effectively infallible?
Yeah, we shouldn't.
here?
Yeah,
They
Europe
can do
shouldn't
what
back
the
them
hell
up
they
either.
like.
It'd be stupid.
My point to you is that if the Russians are losing in Ukraine, and Ukraine and the West are winning, the Russians, I believe, will initiate nuclear use in Ukraine, and they will
Make
do
sure to like
that
and subscribe.
not only
Appreciate the
because
love.
they
That's crazy escalation because, as I said, they strategically have been attacking and moving in a way to avoid a crazy amount of casualties. So to think that it would escalate to the point where they drop a tactical nuke on their ass,
Bruh. Only if they're losing. Like I said, Putin's already stated the value and importance of Ukraine, which is great value and importance. So he already said he's not backing down. He already said, and bro, he lives, like, bro, the type of government he's in, the people overthrow him if they're not satisfied with his leadership. So if he loses this war and their economy will goes down the crapper, which if he does, it will, then yeah, he has to do this. He's gonna drop that nuke to save his life and his country. And I'm be real with you. When he drops that nuke, it's gonna be more for his country than saving his own ass. And that's a sad fact about it.
they think they are facing an existential threat, but also because they will not fear nuclear retaliation from the West.
What if President Biden or Trump, whoever it may be in charge at the time, what if they preempt this by saying, if in that eventuality of Russia starting to lose the war, and it's a big if, by the way, I would clarify that, but if they were, if they were to preempt it, preemptively say as President of the United States, warn Russia, if you use a nuclear weapon, we will help Ukraine defend itself with a nuclear weapon, then aren't they putting in the sand there a line of deterrent, which if it gets crossed, everyone understands what happens? Isn't that the only way it actually works? The only way a deterrent actually works is if the other side believes that you're going to use the same thing, or worse.
But you're assuming that the other side, which is the Russians in this case, would believe that threat. And I don't believe they would believe that threat.
Well, I think they'd have
call
to.
America's bluff.
I think if you're America, you're going to.
and that's what I was saying by suggesting or pondering if they would attack Ukraine, just because of the simple fact, if they did, I think that would be them like testing us, almost them like calling us out, like, man, y'all not really about it for real. We willing to test the fact that y'all not about it to the point where we're gonna bomb Ukraine, and because we know y'all not really trying to go with it at us back and forth with us like that. We know y'all ain't trying to see the world blow up over these niggas, and we willing to test that. We gonna drop this little nuke on their ass and sit back and see what y'all do. Pretty much.
It will be a damn thing. I'll tell you that.
You got to want them to believe you're serious. Otherwise, I just cannot picture a situation where Russia unleash a nuclear attack
it would
on
be a test,
European country, and
Curtis,
America just doesn't respond in kind.
But let's be real though. Like, I'm be real with you. The day Russia does it, I think the American people is already gonna be like, don't even think about it. I know what y'all war criminals is thinking. I know what y'all war hawks is thinking. In the U.S., well, not U.S. government, but don't even think about it.
Gonna be like
do not retaliate, because you're putting our lives in danger, not y'all's. Because we know where they going. They going to sit on the ground bunker. They gonna let them motherfuckers fly over us and nuke us crazy.
It's gonna be like that 70 post-Vietnam stop war movement, low key. You're gonna see a whole bunch of that because motherfuckers is gonna realize real quick what that
bomb meant,
what that nuke means. Like,
it's like, so what y'all gonna do about it? I'm like, we gonna do nothing. We gonna sit here. We gonna let you have Ukraine, and we ain't never gonna test you on that boundary again. I'll tell you that.
Capital, I don't even know if Russia's scared. I think right now it's just a waiting game going on. We biding our time. Everybody just kind of seeing how shit plays out, but motherfuckers formulating plans. Know that the world leaders The country's leaders are formulating plans, and we already got this shit planned 2-3 years down the road. We just ain't seen it yet.
And here's the scary part about world leaders. You're talking about somebody who's okay with having millions of lives on their hand, like blood on their hands. We're talking about people who don't give a shit.
What's a couple million to save 100 million?
Well, bro, shit. What's a couple 100 million to save your entire generation of people? That's really what Putin's facing right now.
There's no deterrent there. That's basically saying to Putin, you can use your nukes whenever you want against any country you like, and we, the great superpower of the world, will just stand by and let you do it. And
I would say we're in the preliminary stages. Yes,
that is not going to be
just a re-spark Middle Eastern conflict.
Is what I think.
Well, when it
if
comes
you're a
to
member of NATO,
Israel and them,
which Ukraine is not, you have an Article 5 guarantee, and you are depending on the American nuclear deterrent to provide security for you. So if a NATO country is attacked with nuclear weapons, there is some reasonable chance the United States will use nuclear weapons to defend that NATO country. But Ukraine is not a member of NATO.
I'm gonna be real with you. I'll take it a step further.
But that's the whole point of all this, is because Ukraine was headed to join NATO. That's the purpose of all this.
Yeah, on God.
So to say that we wouldn't attack them because they're not NATO, I mean, well, they damn near are honorary members of NATO.
Honorary members, damn near locked in. So they kind of are, and we still can't protect them the way we want to. And I'm gonna be real with you. Even if Russia did attack a NATO country, but we still wouldn't do shit.
Well, Kobe, if you look at history, the Ukraine and Russia, if you go back to the Cold War era, the Soviet Union was one big thing, with Russia split into sides, and Ukraine was a part of that. So ethnically, a lot of Ukrainians are Russian, and a lot of their history and culture is tied together very intricately. So you got to understand that, like Seth had mentioned earlier, even as close in as size down to a part of Russia's economy depends on Ukrainian oil, gas, natural resources, things of that nature. So there's a lot of money tied up into Ukraine, a lot of interest in Ukraine.
The way Janice talk, you sound like you about to send a flood. Like, bunkers don't stop. God, he sees all. Yeah, well, I'm gonna be real with you. Hey, if God's foreseeing that one, well, hey. Hopefully he want to send some signs for us.
Oh, God. And, a little warning, a little heads up.
Man, hit me with the signs. Give me the same signs you gave Noah. God,
you know something, God.
And therefore, the United States is not going to risk nuclear war to save Ukraine.
Let them have it.
I mean,
it's that simple.
It wasn't a nuclear scenario, but when you look at what happened with the first invasion of Kuwait by Saddam Hussein.
And not to put my conspiracy hat on, you got to think about what president we have that has interest in Ukrainian natural resources.
Ours.
Not to put my tinfoil hat on or anything.
But Biden has businesses out there in Ukraine. He's money laundering out there in Ukraine. Man, we can get right into that, man. That man doing evil out there.
Kuwait was not a member of NATO.
I think Biden was out there.
And yet America immediately sent boots on the ground to repel Saddam from Kuwait. I'm not sure there's a massive difference between Kuwait and the influence of that to America and the West and Ukraine, a massive sovereign democratic European country. You know, it's been invaded by, illegally invaded by a nefarious power, and America didn't hesitate to kick Saddam out of Kuwait.
Because Kuwait doesn't have nukes.
There's a huge difference between these two scenarios. There was no threat of nuclear war.
Right. That's what I'm saying. We're going to take it there with everybody who cannot give us that same threat. Like, bro, most of the countries we bully don't got nukes. And that's for a good reason. You know what's even funny? We make sure they never get nukes so we can stay bullying their ass. I'm going to be real with you. Yeah, we big ass bullies. But we keep the world safe being bullied sometimes.
Capital, you funny as hell.
Said it wasn't a nuclear situation.
The scenario that you're describing with regard to Ukraine involves nuclear weapons. You fully understand.
Let me clarify.
Just what we're talking about here. We're talking about nuclear weapons. We're talking about nuclear war.
And you know, it's so fucked up. If America really decided to do that, who's gonna stop us?
Nobody, but I mean, there's really no point. We're heavily aligned with each other. If anything popped off, we would all be on the same side.
The day we don't trust their governments, the day we snatch their free, their government from them. We'll say that.
war.
Professor,
the United States of America does not take this threat lightly.
No.
This is a threat of
whole nother
huge
podcast,
magnitude.
my friend.
No, I
We're
wasn't.
talking about getting possibly incinerated.
I think you misheard
Appreciate
what
you,
I said. I deliberately said it. I know it's not a nuclear situation. The point being, why should America defend Ukraine given it's not a NATO country? And I would say, well, nor was Kuwait a NATO country, but America did send boots on the ground there to kick out Saddam Hussein. Ideologically, what is the difference actually between defending Kuwait?
Because Saddam Hussein ain't have nukes. If that boy had nukes, we'd have been like, I ain't gonna lie, Kuwait, man, y'all gotta do it. Get it on your own, bro. Get it out the mud, G. Just like how us America got our freedom out the mud, y'all gonna have to get y'all freedom out the mud. Because we ain't messing with nobody who got any type of nukes who can retaliate in any type of way. We're good. Bro, one nuke takes out millions. That's all I'm gonna say.
You don't need too much.
Bro, you don't need too much to devastate a country. It only took 2 to devastate Japan.
Against Saddam and defending Ukraine against Vladimir Putin, however you end up doing it.
Appreciate you, Diamond.
We're just not talking about defending Ukraine and defending Kuwait. We're talking about using nuclear weapons. We're talking about nuclear war. We're talking about the possibility of getting incinerated.
Like,
this is
incinerated.
Bro, like, are you a fucking threat? At the end of the day, are you a threat enough to where I'm going to be weary about bullying you? Russia, let's be real. We know they got that threat. China, they're a threat. The rest of these countries, not so much.
Not a matter one should take lightly. And you only use nuclear weapons under the most extreme circumstances. The United States would only use nuclear weapons if its survival was threatened. And the idea that the Russians conquering Ukraine or dropping a nuclear weapon on Ukraine threatens their survival and therefore should precipitate a nuclear war.
Bro, and again, like we said, it would be a sad event.
Bro, and I think that was my point when I was speaking on the whole, thing. It got to be a crisis where they're in danger, like where the whole state of the country could be turned upside down. That's what Putin is going through. He said, bro, if we lose Ukraine, that's our economy. It got to be something like that for us at the end of the day. It'd be like, bro, if we don't retaliate against these guys, hit them with this nuke right now, that could be the end of our country. It could be the end of our way of life. That's things we will use a nuke over. Like, the last time we used a nuke was what? So we didn't have to put foot on ground against Japan? So we can save some soldiers? So we don't have to fight people on a land they fought on for thousands of years?
In retaliation of Pearl Harbor?
Yeah. But let's be real. We wasn't trying to go toe-to-toe with the Japanese right there. We're not trying to go toe-to-toe with the motherfuckers who beat Russia. We ain't trying to do that.
And at the time, the Japanese had proven to be very resilient. They refused to give up.
Very formidable. But think about it. They beat Russia's navy. They made Russia give up and just say, look, we don't want to deal with that small-ass island.
Bro, they had given them attempts to formally resign, formally quit, truce.
Everything.
They refused.
And here's the thing. This is after we done struck them so many times and killed over, 800K of them with just missiles. This is before the nuke. Once they see how much we can kill with one nuke, then they gave up.
What you guys think? This is the era of the kamikaze pilot. These niggas didn't care.
Bro.
Or
they didn't care.
I think, not a smart argument.
Fall to the last soldier.
Is that if the Russians were to use
crash
nuclear
out about
weapons,
this shit, literally,
the United States would not respond.
That's why people got respect for Japan to this day.
Nuclear war.
Then Putin wins, right?
Putin might win. That's right. And you want to remember that if you look at what's happening in the conventional war, it looks like Putin's going to win, despite the fact that we've now passed this large-scale arms package for Ukraine. Putin is likely to win.
Why is that not a terrible thing for America and the West?
Well, why would it?
Because
why would it be? Like you said,
if we lose Ukraine, what is that? How does that affect us? Actually, because this war started in Ukraine, our prices of gas has risen. Because this war started in Ukraine, our inflation has risen. So, why? I'm be real with you.
Supposedly.
Yeah, supposedly.
That's what they blame it on.
That's what they blaming it on.
These news headline medias.
If we just go ahead and stop it today, nobody really complaining.
The threats that you face in the world. And the fact
Besides
of the
these
matter
people who
is
think that
what
Putin's going to
happens in Ukraine
expand,
does
that's the
not
only
matter
people
that
going to start
much
crying
to the United States. I know for people like you, this is a life and death matter. The thought of any country on the planet that the West defends losing is a major defeat and has catastrophic consequences. I mean, you felt this way about us pulling out of Afghanistan. But I think that places like Afghanistan, places like Ukraine, don't matter that much.
On that, I didn't really. I felt with Afghanistan, America should have kept a small military presence there to maintain some kind of order. And I think I was justified in saying that, given what's happened since. I thought throwing the country back to the Taliban was a catastrophic error of judgment. And
here's the thing: I thought we was training these guys to low-key like defend off the Taliban. And you're telling me as soon as we leave, they come right back?
Nope.
God damn it, man! Like, what were we really doing then? We just pacifying these guys? Like, what? Not helping them out? So we were just fishing for them instead of teaching them how to fish.
Nope.
Man, that's the worst thing you can do.
It wouldn't have happened the way it's happened if America kept a couple of thousand troops there, as it does all around the world in endless bases. So it seemed to me, having done many, many years of hard work in Afghanistan as a response to 9/11, to then simply just overnight
take out
throw everybody out and leave the country to the Taliban,
and announce we were doing
women's
it.
rights, never mind anything else, I thought was an abrogation of America's duty and the UK.
Right, but this is your worldview, which is the United States has a responsibility to be everywhere and
not
to
everywhere,
never quit until
but
it
it should
wins.
certainly be preserving freedom and democracy. Otherwise,
Like, why us though? Like, what wrong?
See, that's an American military industrial complex where we just think democracy is so great. We got to enforce it across all corners of the world and blah, blah, blah. Like, bro, what works for us does not work for these motherfuckers all the way across the other side of the world.
Actually, I would argue this. I say democracy does work. It does work. It's just when you try to add our agendas in there with the LGBT and women's rights and all that good stuff. And I'm gonna be real with you, a lot of these countries wasn't rocking with that. The LGBT part, they wasn't rocking with. They was willing to accept the women's right part. But the LGBT shit is where they're like, all right, yeah, we'll take the democracy, but if y'all trying to push this other stuff on it with the democracy, yeah, y'all can have that shit. It's like, we're good. Like, we really don't need it like that.
otherwise, why self-style yourself as leader of the free world? You're either a leader of the free world, and America still has, I think, half the world's military firepower.
No, that's a good point. What the fuck is England doing? Like, why can't y'all jump in there and join the honeypot, man? Like, throw some bands in there. We do 20, so we do 60. Where's y'all? Why don't y'all throw some 50? Throw at least 10. Hey, you want to know what's so funny about that whole 60 billion we sent to Ukraine?
Yeah.
They only gotta pay 10 billion back. Man, like somebody give you 100 and you say, "Yeah, pay me 10 back, though." It's
that's
like,
if we ever get it. That's if we ever fucking get it.
Obviously, one of the biggest economies. You either are that entity, leader of the free world, or you're not. And if you are, then what comes with that is a responsibility to protect freedom and democracy when it comes under attack from totalitarian regimes, I would think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, democracy sounds good to everybody. It sounds good. I remember listening to a speech from the Vietnamese leader before the Vietnamese War. He was damn near quoting like, "Bro, yeah, y'all was spitting some shit on that Constitution. Yeah, democracy for all men is made equal. We love it. It's just when you try to enforce this industrial complex on us, when you try to enforce LGBT, when you try to enforce these women's rights and all this crazy shit.
It's all this progressive shit.
Yeah, that's what we're not going. Let us be a democracy and keep our culture. That's all a lot of people are asking for.
I think if you look at the history of American foreign policy, it's very hard to make the case that our principal goal has been to protect freedom and democracy. The United States has a rich history of overthrowing democracies around the world, and we have a rich history of siding with some of the world's biggest dictators. So this idea that we're out there protecting freedom and democracy and it's our principal goal, in my opinion, doesn't mesh with reality.
Let me ask you about the morality of nuclear weapons. Tucker Carlson was on Joe Rogan's podcast this week and said that he believed that it was effectively immoral, evil, that the Allied powers in World War II were not justified in dropping the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which killed over 200,000 civilians.
Crazy.
And I always said, bro, but them niggas weren't giving up, bro. It's Japan we talking about. They were not giving up, bro.
Let's be honest, they wasn't gonna give up.
Actually, we were scared enough to the point of Japan where we think that, bro, like, are they gonna fight to the last soldier, bro?
That's damn near how it looked. The resolve and the morale in the Japanese military at that time was was outstanding. They were known for it.
Bruh.
They were known for it.
Think about it. We're talking about Russia was scared. China was scared of these people. Bro, everybody in Japan was on everybody's low-key shit list at that time.
It's like that one nigga you just don't want to fight. Not because he's the strongest, not because he's the biggest, but that nigga just don't stop fighting.
He's too relentless. Like, you could beat his ass all
He
day.
get right back up.
And keep coming for you. Like, oh, my God.
Where do you sit with the morality of this? Is it ever justified morally to deploy nuclear weapons?
Well, I think that if you use nuclear weapons to effectively murder huge numbers of civilians, you're committing a war crime. I personally believe that the firebombing of Japan, which took place before we dropped those nuclear weapons on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and here you want to remember, Piers, that we killed more people the first night we firebombed Tokyo than we killed at either Hiroshima or Nagasaki.
Yeah.
So we were murdering huge numbers of Japanese civilians well before we dropped those nuclear weapons. I think it's a war crime. And I believe Curtis LeMay said to Robert McNamara at the time, they were both with 20th Air Force in the Pacific, that if we lost the war, they would be tried at the next set of Nuremberg trials.
Oh, God. And they got tried anyway, though. That's the funniest part. Because if they lost the war, oh, my God, bro. Japan would have had their ass swinging from a tree, like, on some crazy shit. It'd have been like a military execution of American generals at a certain point. If we'd lost the war after that, it'd have been a wrap. But instead, we won the war, and then the international court tried to take Truman to court for war crimes, and he ended up beating that. So, let's be real. We suffered no consequences.
Not really.
So I think it was.
I mean,
war
relatively
crime.
for what was done, there was nothing that we faced
when
that
countries
really
get
shook
desperate.
us.
The world just looked at us with a side eye ever since.
I think reparations were paid, but
Yeah.
aside from that, nothing too crazy.
And they looked at us and that was some rare reparations. Like, usually it's the loser who pays the winner. But hey, man, we did too much.
I mean, we fucked them up so bad, though.
It was only fair, bro. It was only fair. I feel it.
Straits, and we felt we were in desperate straits at the time because we did not
Appreciate
want to
you,
invade the
Kobe.
Japanese
Really
home
appreciate it,
islands.
man.
We thought that the casualties would be huge. We thought it was appropriate to drop those bombs on Japan. And I think that the people who did it were fully aware that they were killing massive numbers of civilians, that this was effectively a war crime. But I think
like they had no choice.
And
then after Pearl Harbor, the American people
Bro.
were pro or nuclear bomb. We're pro, let's get these niggas back. We're pro, like, hell nah, they ain't never just do that.
Yeah.
We gotta get our shit back. Like, after that happened, the attitude for retaliation amongst the American people was very, very high.
Bro.
We were hurt. There wasn't too many terroristic attacks made on our soil. Still hasn't been to this day.
Our ego was hit. This was one of our few on-land attacks.
Don't nobody touch us. We big
Yeah.
dog. We big dog America. So at the time that was done, we were really poised to retaliate.
Now, conspiracy theory. We let that happen
What's
on
up,
Pearl
Leonard?
Harbor because we seen them driving over. And they said there were reports that we seen the Japanese coming from miles away, but we just let it happen in order for the U.S. to go ahead and use our nuke or to test our nuke out.
Now, Japan and Hawaii, not that far.
Yep. Let's be real.
Not that far.
ends justified the means.
If by dropping those bombs, as most experts would
Same
would
conspiracy
say was
around
the
9/11,
case,
apparently.
you prevented potentially millions more people being killed, including many more civilians that died in those two bomb attacks. Is that not moral justification for doing it, in the sense of, yes, it's horrendous, yes, the loss of civilian life is appalling and unprecedented, but it will save maybe 5-10 times as many civilians getting killed in the longer run of this war goes on?
You can make that argument for sure, and many people
definitely
made
can.
it at the time. I understand the argument full well, but I think the fact of the matter is you are still murdering huge numbers of civilians. And if you think murdering, I think we probably murdered about 900,000 civilians between March 10th,
Hey, bro, you know what I miss? I miss the old days of war when niggas pulled up to a certain empty plane in a battlefield or in the forest or something and went and duked it out. We didn't like involve citizens. Citizens didn't get involved until your army lost and then we raided the city. Like, I miss those days of war we just met on the battlefield instead of just going into these people's places and hurting civilians.
That was the age of honor, my friend.
Oh God, man, we need those days back, man.
1945.
Me and me on the battlefield.
Mid-August
Have the
1945.
city clear out.
If
God.
Anything, like give the people time to evacuate.
God, run to the caves and
the
then come out when the
run,
winner is
it will
chosen.
save more lives. You can make that argument, but again, I still think it's committing a war crime.
I mean, if you categorize all civilian deaths in a war like that as murder, you're effectively saying that every one of those deaths is a crime. I would not argue that what the Allies did in response to what the Nazis and the Japanese were doing was a crime necessarily. They were responding to an existential threat to the world.
Bro, even back in even back I think in the colonial days, bro, we met on the battlefield. There was no running in on cities just killing civilians. Like, we met on the battlefield. We had a time and place. We knew when this shit was going down. Even back in the day when we had duels.
I was about to say, even back in the days of pistol duels, motherfuckers would meet in the woods, the forest, wherever. Just them two bystanders to the side, walk, I think, towards each other, then walk away from each other, and then it was quickest to draw or some shit like that.
Yeah, that wasn't just a cartoon joke. That was real life.
It's murder of civilians.
They're throwing the glove and everything.
Oh, God.
So the response is not necessarily murder, is it? It's effectively self-defense.
The question you have to ask yourself is whether or not you think because the Nazis were committing genocide, because the Nazis were committing mass murder in Europe, that justifies bombing German cities and purposely killing huge numbers of civilians.
God damn.
Do you think that lets you off the hook? That's the argument you're making. You're saying that because the Germans were so horrible, we were allowed to be horrible ourselves, but we weren't as horrible as the Germans. And furthermore, we were doing this in self-defense. That's the argument you're making.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is I understand that there are strategic imperatives for killing civilians, right?
It kills morality. Like, I'm like, all right, think about this.
And it kind of forces you in a position where do you retaliate and potentially risk more civilian lives, or do you stop the violence and stop the conflict now?
Nah, it's fuck all that. Because think about it. If you don't hit civilians, you just hit soldiers. It's fuck. No, they don't even care about that.
Well, they signed up.
Yeah, no. But here's the thing, though. When you kill civilians, who are these soldiers even fighting for at the end of the day? They're fighting for their children, their mothers, fathers. They're fighting for civilians. And you're talking about we got these Japanese dudes out on the battlefield. You just bombed their hometown. These dudes have nothing to fight for no more. Some of them came back with nothing left in their life, my nigga. That's really why they surrendered, because they low-key killed the morale of their army.
They damn near looking at their general like, I ain't gonna lie, chief.
It's like, dog.
It's over with.
It's like, dog, imagine you out there fighting a war, and they just nuked all of Ohio. We're talking about everybody you know, mother, father, gone.
My family I made, my immediate family. I'm talking mom, brothers.
Is it you get really mad and pick the rifle up and just be anti that country, or you just put it down and just be like, yeah, I'm done. I ain't got nothing else to fight for.
This is why we bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki with nuclear weapons. We thought that it made good strategic sense and that it would save American lives, especially those GIs who would have to invade the Japanese home islands. But I still think that is a case of war crimes, and I think that to use your rhetoric lets us off the hook.
If we'd have met them on the ground, it'd have been we got Vietnam.
Defend itself from an existential threat like the Nazis, then by your categorization, without committing war crimes.
Well, if you look at how the Soviets, who were basically responsible for defeating the Nazis in World War II, they did not commit many war crimes in the process of defeating the Wehrmacht. It was basically a ground war where the Soviets, the Red Army, rolled up the Wehrmacht.
Hey, met them up top. Like that. I'm gonna be real with you. When you meet them up top, that is it's gonna be the least least deaths on civilians, because then you're fighting soldier to soldier. You're meeting them soldier to soldier up top. You're not going behind their backs, bombing their citizens and then killing morale. Like, bro, because in America, we're one of the few countries who can do that, to be honest with you. One of the few who can do it.
There were no bombing of cities. There were no dropping of nuclear weapons. Now, there's no question that there was a lot of rape and pillaging, especially at the end, as the Red Army moved into Germany. But aside from that, this was not
appreciate y'all for the likes and all that. Make sure you keep liking the video, man. Make sure it gets pushed.
Let's get this sucker to 10.
So you can fight a war on the ground involving two armies that basically avoids the problem of bombing cities and murdering huge numbers of civilians.
What if the Nazis are bombing cities, as they were?
Well,
what do you mean? I'm not defending that.
It's like the Battle of Britain, the Blitz. I mean, if they're going to send over bombers and just attack cities in the way that they did, how do you defend yourself without committing war crimes by your assessment?
Well, the British defended themselves with fighter aircraft. The RAF fended off the Luftwaffe and won the Battle of Britain. The RAF, the British, did not commit war crimes to defeat the Luftwaffe in the Battle of Britain. There's no question that the...
And you know what's so funny about that capital? That's exactly what Saddam was saying in his letter to America. He's like, yeah, you're going to feel like, bro, all the stuff they're allowing. He pointed out a couple countries that he wasn't messing with. He pointed out our shadow government that he wasn't messing with. Like, low key. Saddam, that's crazy what that man was saying. But, yeah, he pretty much told us that we're going to feel the consequences of our government for its atrocities that it does around the world. And 9/11 happens.
RAF, at different points in the war, purposely targeted German cities and purposely tried to murder large numbers of British civilians. You know the story of Bomber Harris for sure. Yeah. But that's not what happened in the Battle of Britain. And my only point is, if you talk about what Bomber Harris did and the RAF did against German cities, this was a war crime. They were purposely bombing working class areas in German cities because that they believed that strategy would maximize the number of civilians.
Well, they wasn't as simple as that, were they? Because they were deliberately targeting industrial cities in the main, which were being used to build munitions as well. Okay. So there was a legitimate reason to target these cities. But that was the case in many cases.
That's not true.
Yes, it is.
No, but... No, I mean, what happened was that the British quickly found out, and this is what happened to us when we bombed Japan. We quickly found out that bombing economic and military targets didn't work. I could walk you through the story about the bombing of Japanese cities like Tokyo. It didn't work. And the reason we turned to bombing civilians, to killing civilians when we bombed Japan, and this was true with regard to Bomber Harris, is that bombing economic targets didn't work.
I found this conversation, as always, fascinating, Professor Meerschaum. I love having you on.
Hey, you know what? Hey, I hold on. Who's this guy? The Truth?
Hey, shut your bitch ass up, nigga. I'm gonna ask you a bitch ass thing. You shut the fuck up before I knock your fucking head off your shoulders, old ugly ass bitch. Stupid ass bitch. Now keep your fucking heart out your chest, nigga. Better watch the fuck out.
Enough said.
It's been quite a downbeat interview, I have to say, for obvious reasons. Are you positive about the future of mankind, or are you selling at this stage?
I'm quite pessimistic about the future of international politics. I think if you look at what's going on in Ukraine and you just think about the conversation that you and I were having, it's hard to think that the future doesn't look as depressing as the present and the recent past with regard to Ukraine. If you look at the Middle East, I mean, I see no hope there. This terrible situation is just going to go on and on. Kings. The Iran-Israel case that we talked about will pop up again in the future. And if you look into the situation in East Asia, what you see is that the U.S. and the Chinese are engaged in this.
And speaking of the whole Chinese situation, we gave $8 billion to Taiwan.
Oh boy.
I don't know, like... It's kind of hilarious because...
You're funding everybody's ops right now.
Yeah, it's like, God damn. So we're helping Ukraine, which is going against Russia. And then we helping out Israel. Taiwan, which is going against China. And both of these countries want their land. let's be real. Taiwan is low key.
Man, Diamond, you already know it's always a Saudi motherfucker in here.
Yeah. But shout out, man. Hey, man, you ain't doing nothing if you ain't got no haters.
Oh, God.
Tense security competition, where there's a real possibility of a war in the future over Taiwan or the South China Sea or the East China Sea.
I was waiting for an opinion.
And then
I wanted to hear something too. I was
you can
about to
look,
let him
like
cook.
the Korean Peninsula, the border between India and China. And it seems like there's no end of potential war or potential conflict
Bro, are you
between
Like,
the major powers in the system
Like,
and
what
even
the
the
hell?
minor powers in the international system. And then when you look inside states and you look at what's happening, if you look at what's happening to liberal democracy
Done.
around the world, it's
Put
not
his
a
ass in
pretty
timeout.
picture.
Y'all gonna
Look
get
at the
fired.
United States. Look at Britain. Two of the paradigmatic liberal democracies. They're both in serious trouble. So I hate to say this, but I find very few reasons to be optimistic about the future. And sometimes I think I'm glad that I was born after World War II and I lived, most of my life.
I ain't gonna lie, I be so happy. I'm like, hey, I voted the draft. Like, man, hey, shout out for being born in the 90s, boy. I voted all the bullshit. All the bullshit happened before me.
Was in here getting it done.
Man, bro, even the war on crime, the war on drugs happened before me. It's like, oh, God, clutch time to be born, Keith. Clutch time. Better be grateful.
20th and early 21st century, because when I think about moving forward, it, again, doesn't look like a pretty picture.
Well, you failed to give me any...
Key. You could have been black in the 30s.
Oh,
boy.
Shit. Sundown towns.
Bro, hey, no, you could have been black in the 1880s.
Oh, my God.
Oh, God.
But I'm going to give you some because assuming the world doesn't end before the end of May, there is a very high probability.
In here typing faster than he could think for real. Like, bro, what the fuck did you even talk about?
In the words of Sinful to P, why you gotta be so
sassy? So sassy.
Like, man.
Sassy.
Shout out, respect.
Hey, shout out Sinful to P, man. Go look him up, man.
R.I.P. Sinful to P.
Oh God,
man.
Go look him up if you on YouTube. After y'all done tuning in to us, obviously.
To feel positive, albeit in a small way.
Sassy,
if you're an Arsenal fan,
so sassy.
It's a very interesting perspective, and it goes to show you how important sports is for people in the modern world.
There was a great manager called Bill Shankly who managed Liverpool Football Club, and he said, football's not a matter of life or death.
Just a troll.
It's far more important than that. I kind of share that view. And how ironic if the final winners of the Premier League before the world blew itself to pieces was a club named Arsenal, named after the Woolwich Arsenal military munitions base in South London.
One of the biggest football clubs in the world.
Brilliant to have you back on. I love debating these things with you. I always feel like I learn a lot from our conversations.
Damn.
And I hope you come back soon. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Hella money in soccer, let's be real.
Oh, yeah.
Man, I think they about to wrap it up here, though, I believe. Let's see.
You're welcome, Pierce.
Yep.
Shout out Sinful Capital.
On God, man. On God.
And that nigga definitely was entertaining on the YouTube shit.
Man, hilarious.
They gotta be so sassy,
man. Like, real pimps don't do that.
He said Marquetta.
I'm weak.
Oh, man.
But Marquetta was hilarious.
Nah, it was fucking goated.
All right, but closing thoughts on this one, though. Hey, he made a banger point with if Russia decides to nuke Ukraine to make sure that they win that war, bro, we're not going to do nothing about it. And it'd be in our best interest not to do nothing about it. Yeah, it'd be the biggest waste of money we probably ever did. Well, I ain't gonna lie. How much did we spend in Afghanistan? Because that was a huge waste of money as well.
Money spent, time spent, lives lost. God damn. Not like, in all seriousness though, and I always say this, I tend to disagree with a lot of our governments and our military's actions, but I have nothing but respect for the soldiers who served and obviously given their lives for
the country,
our freedoms and our rights. So
that you take for granted.
Yeah, every day.
Oh God, man, don't take them rights for granted, man. Because I swear to God, one day they might just disappear.
I might think these niggas is dumbasses, but they men and women with a cause and with honor. So regardless of your personal beliefs, know that they went to fight for what they thought was your rights.
Honestly,
so respect that. It can be given nothing but respect.
It's like, don't talk shit about them. Like, one thing I hated about our past was how we shitted on Vietnam. I'm like, bro, them soldiers didn't know they was getting themselves
Came back good. Stubs.
Bro, they thought they were fighting for American freedom when they were really fighting for the industrial complex. It was a whole lot of shit that, like, we blame our soldiers for that we low-key shouldn't. That we should just straight up blame the government. And then here's the thing. We don't even help these soldiers. We were too busy blaming them, shifting the blame to the soldiers who were just following an order, and let them crash out on the streets. It's like, dog, I'm gonna be real with you. Back and then, I think the people who went against the soldiers were the real betrayers of America.
No, facts.
Real betrayers of American peace.
Facts. And again, like I said, we sit here a lot of times on Second Key Media and critique a lot of the things we see from our government, our politicians, our world leaders. But again, that is not to disrespect anybody who's given their time and their life to serve their country.
Bro, we respect all warriors. All warriors get respect around here. I don't care if you're on the battlefield shooting guns or if you're in the cage or the ring. It doesn't matter. You have my respect. You're doing what 90% of people don't want to do.
Would not fucking do.
All right. Let's go ahead and wrap this up, man. This is this Key, man. This is Second Key Media, man. Closing out on another banger, man. Make sure to like and subscribe. Man, y'all have a good night. We'll be back.